In the intricate tapestry of life on our planet, every thread is connected. The choices we make, even those that seem as personal as the clothes we wear, can send ripples across ecosystems, often in ways we might never imagine. We have adorned ourselves for millennia, using materials drawn from the natural world. But in our modern, globalized society, the scale of this industry has grown to an unprecedented size, and its demands on nature are immense. The vibrant colors and luxurious textures we see in our shops often conceal a hidden story, a story of profound impact on the wild creatures with whom we share this world. Our planet's wildlife, in all its breathtaking diversity, is facing challenges on a scale never before seen. And while we often think of heavy industry or transportation as the primary culprits, the fashion industry plays a significant, yet often overlooked role. It is a story that begins not in a factory, but in the vast open spaces of our world, the forests, the grasslands, and the wetlands. It is here that the raw materials for our clothing are sourced, and it is here that the lives of countless animals are inextricably linked to our sartorial decisions. In this journey, we will explore the surprising and sometimes devastating connections between common fashion materials and the natural world. From the leather in our shoes to the cashmere of our sweaters, we will uncover how their production can alter landscapes and threaten the delicate balance of life. Understanding these connections is the first step. It allows us to see not just a garment, but a story of the planet, its creatures, and the part we play in its future. We must look closer, for the survival of many species may depend on it. Leather. For centuries, it has been a symbol of durability and luxury. It is a material deeply rooted in human history, derived from the skin of animals. But today, the vast majority of leather comes from cattle, and the sheer number of these animals required to meet global demand has a staggering environmental footprint. The story of modern leather is often a story of deforestation. Vast swathes of ancient forest, particularly in critical regions like the Amazon basin, are cleared, not just for the cattle themselves, but to grow the crops, like soy, that are needed to feed them. These are not just trees being lost, they are entire worlds. Each hectare of cleared forest is a home that vanishes forever. For the jaguar, the apex predator of the Americas, the loss of its forest hunting grounds means a loss of territory and prey, pushing it into ever smaller fragments of wilderness and increasing conflict with humans. Monkeys, like the howler or the spider monkey, who spend their entire lives in the canopy, suddenly find their arboreal highways gone. Their families are separated, their food sources disappear, and their very existence is threatened. The vibrant symphony of the rainforest, filled with the calls of toucans and macaws, falls silent. The process of turning raw hide into finished leather also carries a heavy burden. Tanneries, the facilities where this transformation occurs, have historically used a cocktail of toxic chemicals, including chromium salts. When not managed with the utmost care, these substances can leach into local waterways. This pollution is devastating for aquatic life. Fish, amphibians, and the invertebrates that form the base of the riverine food web can be poisoned, creating dead zones where life once thrived. The very water that sustains the remaining wildlife becomes a source of peril, a final tragic chapter in the story of a leather bag or a pair of shoes. The image of sheep grazing peacefully on rolling green hills is an idyllic one, deeply ingrained in our culture. Wool, the fiber they provide, has kept us warm for thousands of years. It is natural, renewable, and biodegradable. Yet the industrial scale of modern sheep farming presents a profound challenge to the delicate balance of grassland ecosystems. When vast numbers of sheep are concentrated in one area, their constant grazing can be relentless. They consume vegetation faster than it can regrow, compacting the soil with their hooves and stripping the land bare. This process, known as overgrazing, transforms a vibrant ecosystem into a depleted, impoverished landscape. Native herbivores, which have evolved over millennia to live in harmony with these grasslands, are the first to suffer. Species like the pronghorn in North America or the wallaby in Australia find their food sources decimated. They are outcompeted by the sheer number of domestic sheep, forced to migrate to less suitable areas or face starvation. The subtle, intricate web of plant life is also disrupted. The selective grazing habits of sheep can allow tough, unpalatable weeds to proliferate, fundamentally altering the character of the pasture and making it inhospitable for the insects and small mammals that depend on the original flora. The consequences ripple outwards. The loss of vegetation cover leads to soil erosion, with wind and rain carrying away the precious topsoil that took centuries to form. This sediment can choke rivers and streams, harming fish populations and other aquatic life. Furthermore, large flocks of sheep can displace ground-nesting birds, whose nests and young are vulnerable to being trampled. What was once a complex, resilient ecosystem, supporting a wide array of life, becomes a simplified, degraded environment, a shadow of its former self, all in the service of producing the wool for our jumpers and coats. In the vast, windswept steppes of Mongolia and northern China lives the Kashmir goat. Its undercoat, incredibly fine and soft, produces one of the world's most luxurious fibers. For generations, nomadic herders have lived in balance with this harsh environment, their small herds having a minimal impact. But the explosion in global demand for affordable cashmere has shattered this equilibrium. The number of goats has ballooned, from just a few million to tens of millions. These animals, with their sharp hooves and voracious appetites, are transforming the fragile grasslands on which an entire ecosystem depends. Unlike sheep, goats are particularly destructive grazers. They eat plants down to the very root, preventing regrowth and accelerating the process of desertification. The once lush steppes are turning to dust, unable to support the immense herds. This has catastrophic consequences for the region's native wildlife. The Saiga antelope, with its distinctive bulbous nose, a relic of the Ice Age, now finds its grazing lands gone. The wild Bactrian camel, critically endangered, is pushed to the very brink as its precious oases and pastures vanish. Even the elusive snow leopard is affected, as its prey, like the ibex, decline due to competition with the ever-expanding goat population. The herders themselves are trapped in a vicious cycle. As the land degrades, they need more goats to maintain their income, which in turn accelerates the degradation. The encroaching Gobi Desert is a stark testament to this unsustainable pressure. What was once a thriving grassland, a cornerstone of Central Asian biodiversity, is becoming a barren wasteland. The incredible softness of a cashmere sweater carries with it the immense weight of this ecological collapse, a story of how our desire for luxury can unravel a unique and ancient way of life for both humans and animals. Viscose, also known as rayon, is a popular material, prized for its soft, silk-like feel and versatility. It is often marketed as a more sustainable alternative to other fabrics because it originates from a natural source, wood pulp. It is a semi-synthetic fiber, born from the forests of our world. However, the origin of that wood pulp is a matter of critical importance. A significant portion of the pulp used for viscose production is sourced from ancient and endangered forests, particularly in tropical regions like Indonesia, Brazil, and Canada's boreal forest. These are not just collections of trees, they are some of the most biodiverse places on Earth. When these irreplaceable forests are clear-cut to create monoculture plantations of fast-growing trees like eucalyptus or acacia, the impact is immediate and devastating. For the orangutan, the gentle person of the forest, the destruction of its treetop home is a death sentence. It is left stranded, unable to find food or shelter, and vulnerable to poachers. Sumatran tigers and elephants lose the vast territories they need to roam and hunt. The complex, multi-layered structure of the old-growth forest is replaced by a sterile, single-species plantation that supports a tiny fraction of the original wildlife. The process of converting wood pulp into viscose fiber is also chemically intensive. It requires the use of hazardous chemicals like carbon disulfide, a neurotoxin. In areas with lax environmental regulations, the effluent from these factories can be released directly into the air and water. This not only poisons the local environment, killing fish and contaminating drinking water for both wildlife and human communities, but it also poses a severe health risk to factory workers. The silky drape of a viscose dress can therefore conceal a harsh reality of deforestation, habitat loss for iconic species, and dangerous pollution. Down, the soft, fluffy underplumage of geese and ducks. It is nature's finest insulator, prized for its lightness and warmth in jackets, duvets, and sleeping bags. For these waterfowl, down is essential for survival, providing insulation against the cold and buoyancy on the water. The sourcing of this material, however, has long been a subject of great concern. While some down is collected as a byproduct of the meat industry after the birds have been slaughtered, A significant and cruel practice known as live plucking has persisted in some parts of the world to increase yields. This process, where feathers are torn from live, conscious birds, is incredibly painful and stressful for the animals. It can result in torn skin and injuries, and it is repeated multiple times throughout a bird's life. This intensive farming puts immense pressure on the birds, far removed from their natural migratory lives. But the impact extends beyond the farmed birds. The demand for down fuels large-scale industrial farms, which can have significant environmental consequences. The waste from thousands of birds, rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, can pollute nearby lakes and rivers, leading to algal blooms that deplete oxygen and kill native fish populations. These farms can also become breeding grounds for diseases, such as avian influenza, which can then spread to wild bird populations with devastating effect. The great migratory flyways of our planet, used by millions of wild geese, ducks and swans, become corridors of risk. A wild flock, stopping to rest at a contaminated wetland, can be exposed to pathogens that threaten their entire population. The comforting warmth of a down jacket, therefore, can be linked not only to animal suffering, but also to a wider ecological threat that jeopardizes the magnificent spectacle of wild bird migration. The threads that connect our clothing to the natural world are complex and often hidden from view. We have seen how leather can drive deforestation, how wool can degrade grasslands, and how the desire for cashmere, viscose, and down can place immense pressure on fragile ecosystems and the animals within them. The jaguar, the orangutan, the snow leopard. These are not distant, abstract creatures. They are our fellow inhabitants on this remarkable planet, and their fate is interwoven with the choices we make every day, in every shop, and with every purchase. The scale of the challenge can feel overwhelming, yet it is not insurmountable. Awareness is the first and most powerful tool we possess. By understanding the story behind our clothes, we can begin to change the narrative. We can start to ask questions. Where did this come from? How was it made? What was its cost to the environment? This curiosity is the seed of change. It empowers us to move beyond being passive consumers and become active, conscious participants in a global system. Every garment we choose not to buy, or every sustainable choice we make, sends a small but significant signal back up the supply chain, a signal that we value the health of our planet. The future of fashion, and indeed the future of much of our planet's wildlife, depends on this shift. We can seek out innovative new materials and support brands that are committed to transparency and sustainability. We can choose recycled fibers, organic cotton, or materials certified to have a lower impact on forests and animals. We can buy less, choose well, and make our clothes last. By doing so, we are not just dressing ourselves. We are casting a vote for the kind of world we wish to live in, a world where humanity and nature can not only coexist but thrive together. The choice ultimately is ours.